Hey, Chris, welcome. Welcome to Thursday Musings. Everybody, this is Chris James, somebody that I care deeply about. We have this amazing connection. That word amazing is used really often. And this time I truly mean amazing. We connect on so many levels. And I'm going to include her bio. I'm not going to read her bio because I realized this morning I don't like to read bios because they're what people do, not who they are. And so Chris may tell you a little bit about what she does during our conversation, but I want to tell you how we met. Um, I have a professional acquaintance. She's not somebody I knew really well, but I liked her. And I met Michelle in my book writing course. And Michelle was on a summit that Chris moderated. And it was Women and Wealth. What was the exact title, Chris?
It was women creating wealth after having families.
Yeah. Okay. So I've known, probably like most of you, I've known to be sign up for summits that are 5 days, 3 days, 7 days, and not follow through. I don't know. Have you done that, Chris? Have you signed up and right? I mean, we
Yes,
do that, especially if it's free. You know, we mean well, but then it goes. This time, it's the only time I have ever listened to every talk. And what was it, 7, 9 days? How many days
it was.
long?
Yeah, it was long. So I think it was like 14 days because I
For
think I had 14 speakers. Yeah,
listened to every single one. And the only common denominator was Chris because she was the moderator. And I didn't know why, but I felt a very strong, I had an intellectual reason why, but I felt a real move to contact Chris. Um, and I did that. And then we kind of found our own connections with the Enneagram, um, but also with a kind of honesty that's not usually around between um, white people and people of color. We often can't talk about what's going on. Is race part of it? And this summit was all people of color, right?
hmm
And so that's how we began. We began really with being able to talk about that before we hardly knew each other. And then trust developed. And then we realized, hey, we weren't put together for what I had in mind. We were put together for bigger things. And so Chris is here today with a great topic, and we have not chatted about it. So I have no idea. It's going to be a conversation. But I asked Chris to come on and I said, what would you like to talk about? And she came up with the hidden cost of performance. And wow, I so love that title. And I wanted us to not talk about it before you get to be part of the conversation, all of you in this community. So, Chris, what did you have in mind when you came up with that topic?
yes. So what I had in mind was some of the work that I'm actually doing, like we've talked about, is that I noticed I went into like performance mode because I was like consulting with my past. And I'm starting to see it because once you see it, you can't unsee it, right? So I see it with clients, I see it with people I interact with. I see with family members. I see even how I even choke up in situations because I feel like I'm not fulfilling someone's role or identity they have about me. And I was like, that's not freeing at all. And so a lot of opportunities.
Because you are so smart and you talk so quickly.
Oh, sorry.
I want people to keep up with you.
Okay.
And because I didn't read your bio for people, fill people in on just a sentence or two of what you do so they get the context of you have big promises with your clients. So they're coming to you with expectations. And this is business. People pay you, and so results are expected. And everybody, can you see how people would expect a performance, like perform for me? I've given you money. And what do they give you money for? What are you doing for people's businesses?
Yeah, so we built the whole digital ecosystem of your business from lead magnet all the way into your membership model. And so I'm really passionate about wisdom, like people that have actually life experiences and they're teaching other people through it. And I'm passionate about that. And so the tech just came with it. Because a lot of time people want to throw their computer out the window. I know I have, and just watch it ablaze, but no, I have to go to Best Buy the next day and buy a new laptop. And I'm like, that's way more inconvenient, you know? But that's what we do. And that's what I'm most passionate about is just taking that idea and I'm able to see what they are saying, like seeing the vision, and then we just put it out on paper, then we put it into the digital space. And I really like that part. It's like really
So
creating.
let me see if I have this right, so people can really take in what you do in the context of shaking up the performance. Because the performance, if we just start with the business context, so you've taken people who have wisdom and have something passionate, and would you say leadership and maybe even spirituality in their business, like maybe not talking about it, but coming from that sacred soul delivery place. Is that right? That's who you like to work with?
Yes, that's who I like to I love to work with. And there's times when I've noticed that I'm not aligned, and we can talk about that too later. But there's a client that wasn't aligned to that, and there was a lot of red flags for me that I dismissed and I should have addressed it earlier, but I was in performance mode and I wasn't trying to be in my feelings, you know? And
Yeah.
so, but yes, I do love working with women that are they're 9 times out of 10, they're already an author. They love teaching. It comes natural to them where people come and call them and want to get advice from them. Those are the type of women I love speaking with. They're like the go-to woman, but then they don't always have someone to go to. And so like I'm their go-to woman, that woman, you know, and
And
that
you set up, is it correct? You set up their back end, how to have a business that's productive as far as getting their message out there, but is also making money so that they can stay in business, so that it makes financial sense. You are the person who sets that up, because that's not the skills that these kinds of leaders necessarily come with. So is that right?
That is correct. And I want to add to that. So this is usually their second or third business. So they're really focused in their first and second business. And a lot of times their service-based business doesn't always transition to the digital space. There's like you have to do a doppelganger, like a digital doppelganger with your business and depending on what you want. And it goes from teaching. So when you go to service-based, you're just doing, they're performing. And then when you go to membership and teaching, that's really where your energy is spent, not really doing the tech and doing that part. And so we set all of that up because in the past, I noticed that when I had my course, I noticed all the women would freeze up at the tech. They'll wait until we get on our call to work through the tech. And I'm like, I did the video. And so it's something with the tech. Like I said, it's very satisfying. You just imagine throwing your laptop out the window and just say, yes. But yeah, we help with all that. So that reduces the friction. Because when you're in a learning curve, what I've noticed is there's a lot of self like doubt and you really talk negative, it's an opportunity to talk negative about yourself when you can't figure this thing out. You're like, I figured all this stuff out in my first business. Then you get frustrated with yourself and it's like, no, it's because it was a learning curve, like that's with everything. So yeah.
So I'm going to translate again just to, because sometimes people are doing the dishes and they're, doing something else when they listen to this. And I would just want to be sure that everybody gets the groundwork. So to correct me if I'm wrong, you're hearing people's uh, issues, emotional issues, when they're having to learn the tech part. So if they're teaching or it's a service-based industry or company that they're trying to develop, they start out, if they're coming to you, lacking the digital, the back end to make it successful. And then you have the task of getting them to learn it so that they can be independent of you and so that the business can run when you actually set it up, design it so that it can work. But if they have the emotional issues of, I can't learn this, I hate tech, I'm not good enough, somebody do this, then we have the freeze right there. And so you're having to, even though you're trying to develop a digital system for them, you're having to deal with the emotional unworthiness, the all these other things that are not in what you promised. You've offered to set up the back end, and then what they're offering is all these issues. So you have a block you have to get through, the emotional blocks. So getting back to even just starting with the hidden cost of performance, what comes up for you? Like, how did this title, how would you be performing if you're just trying to get them to learn the tech? You'd be like, this is that. Here's the video. Okay, they didn't watch the video because they were scared. Now you're having to repeat it again. Now there's maybe, I'm asking you as a question, is there a kind of disconnect because maybe you're frustrated? You want them to do well, and now you're having to start all over telling them what was on the video. And also, you're not, this isn't therapy, so how do you handle all that you heard? Because Chris is a 4 on the Enneagram, so you can't help hearing all the feelings that are in the room, but you're supposed to perform. You're supposed to set up their design. Is that when the cost of performance comes up for you?
So a little bit. So with the tech, so really, if you're looking at because it's deeper than business. And I really like business. Like I like learning. I like it. I don't know why fully, but I like it. I like the thought of it. It's like you can serve many people in that capacity. But what I feel is that when I'm on the call, because the thing is that I'm not always teaching them the tech. I really encourage them to have team members on there. But when they're first starting out in the second thing, they have this, oh, I've done it myself this whole time. Now I should be, and that's where the word comes, I should be able to do this in no time and whip it up. And it's like, no. And then there's frustration when it's not getting done.
Uh-huh.
Excuse me.
Let's start with the personal then, maybe. If maybe that's where the juice is for you. So tell us, what does that mean personally, the cost of performance? Give us an example of performance and where
Yeah.
there's a cost.
Yes. I like having deep conversations, and not everybody wants to have deep conversations. And so some people want to have surface level conversations, and those I will. kind of fake being there, but then I'm like, no, there's a whole bunch of questions I have for you. But then as when I was younger, you get kind of shunned for asking so many questions. They call you being nosy when you're really not being nosy. You're just really curious of how life works, and most likely I'm not always able to Google someone to be like, oh, this is all the answers and AI summed you up for me. So that's not happening. And so I'm naturally curious about other people, but I've noticed that some people don't want to open up. And so I sometimes mirror that, where I don't want to open up and look like I make mistakes, even though I know each time you're doing something new, you go through all the stages, like from infancy, where you're like drooling over yourself and babbling, trying to learn the language. Then you go into this teenager mode where you're rebellious. And I know that's just part of instead of me just allowing myself, knowing that's the process, I would mirror how other people think I should behave when I'm working with like high level women, instead of just being myself, where I'm like really silly. I'm still getting the work done, but somewhere like in the past when I switched over, so I'll bring it back to more of a context. I felt like in my beginning years I didn't take life seriously, or so I was told. I wasn't taking life seriously, instead of just allowing myself, saying, hey, you're just trying to figure it out. Um, so when I feel that I'm having fun, I'm not getting work done, and I shouldn't be doing that. Like there's a finger waving at me. So that keeps me in a role of being performing and doing and doing and doing, when that really just drains me a lot of the time. And I don't just see it with myself, I see it with other people when I'm speaking with them. But that keeps me not feeling safe to be myself.
Okay, so
And
you said so many great things here, and I want to zone in on it. So here's what I heard. It starts when you want to do something else, like say something else or ask a question, and you stop yourself because you think they don't want to hear that, or you're in a role at work, and so you better be serious and not take a second to relate from your heart or your emotions or even your thoughts. So that's where the trouble starts, right? That
mhm,
moment where, so again, um, for people who know the Enneagram, it's 4 going to 1. It's our conscience. It's our voice in oneness that tells us how it should be. Because we might be right, we might be wrong, that this person doesn't want to hear that. Or
mhm,
now we've made a decision about the rules of life when it didn't go well, when we were inquisitive in that setting, whatever setting it was, where you were shut down when you asked questions, you were treated as nosy, or that was your conclusion. We don't really know what they were thinking, because all of us do that. We make up stories and make meaning out of someone who doesn't call you back or someone who looks uptight. Then we make up what the story is. Sometimes we're right, sometimes we're not, but we go on with the meaning we've made. So let's just get in this. Okay, so you want to say something and you shut yourself down because of your expectation of yourself, because performance and expectation, inner expectation, inner expectation is rooted on what you believe outer expectation is.
mhm.
And I think the important word there is belief, because
Oh
we
yeah.
really know, right? Yeah. Okay. So we're right together on that belief. And here's the thing, when you shut yourself down, whether you're right to or wrong to, wrong meaning that isn't where the person would have enjoyed your having a break or connecting. But let's just say it doesn't matter whether you're right or not. We all can relate to acting a certain way in a certain setting because that's what we think is the right way. right, in quotes. The juice, I think, for this conversation is what happens to us inside when we shut down our real voice, our real connect. Because let's say being curious, we were raised in different communities, you know. Um, it's not just the colors of our skin and our heritage, it's cultural, and I found myself uh, thinking of an example I used with you of the dinner party. I thought about that later, and I thought that's maybe a white thing, that white people that are grown up have these dinner parties. Maybe people of color do that differently, and everybody brings food and they do it however they do it. But if I don't say to you at that moment, oh, because I felt a silence like that in that moment. I'm just taking it to me and seeing if this is what happens to you. If I thought of it then and said, oh, maybe that's a cultural thing for me, and didn't ask you, if I didn't say, oh, is that just a white thing that white people do this thing? We would have a space between us, right? Like if you're not authentic to what is coming up, are you following me?
A little bit. I feel like for the cultural difference, that does have a lot to do with miscommunication, or you're trying to fill in the gap of like what they said.
Yeah.
Uh, but I feel like it's more too about, even if you're talking, right, and you are feeling free to speak, then, because sometimes I feel censored to speak. Just because even from coming from a work environment and then to owning my own business, I notice I carry some of those things over, and I'm like, ah, I don't have to be censored, because people would censor me if I corrected a situation, and I would do it just like I'm talking now, but they'll say I was being hostile, and I've never been hostile at work. And so it's very interesting when you're making corrections about things. And so I say that to say that if we're being true to our experiences and like sharing it, it also invites me into a space where, hey, I'd never consider that, like as soon as I heard dinner party, I immediately thought about Martha Stewart. And Martha Stewart's slogan, her slogan is like, make it beautiful. Like she wanted to make homemaking beautiful. And I read her business book a couple years ago. Then in a class, I think it was Diane that mentioned it. I revisited it again, and because I like the business portion of it. But no, I've never been to a dinner party. I've been to barbecues and
But
family.
even it wouldn't matter
Yes.
if you said yes or no. It's not a white thing. You might have said no, it's not a white thing, the dinner party thing, whatever. But what if it, let's take it back to you. When you censor yourself, is there then a distance with the person and with yourself?
Yeah, there's a disconnect. And then you're trying to fill in the gap. So you take away from the real time presence. And then you're in your head having a conversation and you're not really
Yes,
hearing the other person.
yes. And when they started writing more about belonging, there's a lot going on in the world now in psychology and social media about belonging. And when I heard the expression belonging to yourself, what does that mean? What does that actually mean? Like, how can you not belong to yourself? Oh, they're talking about that kind of experience when you blocked yourself from talking, from connecting, from your story, whatever your story is, whatever your reasons, you've taken yourself out of your authenticity of in the moment, like you said, And now where are you? You're in disconnect, and then you don't belong to yourself, and you're performing. The only thing you can do when you're disconnected is perform. You can still talk, you can still act in a role. You use the word role.
Mm-hmm.
We're in roles.
Mm-hmm.
We're not being authentic because that's why we're calling it a role. Let's say you have 3 kids that are with you, another kid, so you have 4 kids. When you are playing with them, you're not in a role when you're in the moment, right? Like, but when you're deciding you want to change their behavior on a certain thing, then you come in a role. A role is not bad, but it's different. It's a different experience than being yourself.
I agree with that. I think a role equals a result. You want a result in the situation. So, and it goes to a doing. It's
Uh,
not a, you can't be, you can't really be in your stillness and beingness. You go into a role because you're like, I want this, this, and this done. This is the result based on this role that I'm performing.
but could you? Let's question that. I think that's what
Oh,
we
Rosalind,
all believe.
I think the audio, do I sound far away?
No, you sound good.
Let me see. That's okay. That means the conversation is getting good.
Um,
Okay.
so is that true? Really true? I think we all believe that in order to get a result, we've got to be in this role. But let's take that example, when you're just playing with your kids, you're not looking for any result. Aren't you actually teaching more effectively what it's like to show up in present time, what it's like to be free, what it's like to have fun, what it's like to be alive, what it's like to be in the moment? Is that not more valuable than pick up your clothes? Like, let's say kids throw their clothes on the floor. I mean, you come in the role like, this is not acceptable, whatever, and you're teaching how to pick up your clothes and be cooperative or whatever it is. Yeah, maybe you get a result. Maybe next day they pick up their clothes. But what did you teach them? I mean, what if you always pick up your clothes? I mean, I could argue that could be more effective. Maybe they're picking their clothes up the next day because they're scared of you coming in and being in your role, and they don't want that. But they're not picking up their clothes from the joy of having a neat environment like you do. So I think we both agree, I think, that whatever you demonstrate is more effective than what you teach.
I agree with that. And the energy behind it, because it could be like pick your clothes up, but you can't. There's a acting technique. It's called the Meisner technique, and they repeat this. They pick a phrase and they repeat and repeat it, but the goal is to repeat it in different tones.
Uh,
Uh, and you have to say it like, if I say pick up your clothes, pick up your clothes. You say it like that to evoke an emotion, which is the result you want in the situation. And so then you can respond to that. And so I think it's definitely even how they're going to talk to themselves. Because, like, if I'm performing, I'm teaching my kids to perform and disconnect from themselves. And then they feel like they have to do this because there's a time when I go downstairs and I'm like, I've cleaned up before I went up there, and I'm like, I see them chilling and I'm like, no, I need you guys to do this and this. Now, I don't do it as often as I used to. I'll do it like once in a while because I'm like, they're just being, they don't have to keep going, going, going. I was raised like that to just keep going. Like, if you take a break, but then I understand that's also something even even before my parents. Like, you can't take a break. You need to keep going, going, going. It's not safe for you to take a break. No one's going to come, help you. And it's very just like you're performing, you're going, going, going. And you don't really allow yourself to be. And then if you do allow yourself to be, that's foreign. So people are like, oh, no, 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 you don't say things like that. Oh, no, no, you don't do things like that. You can't act like that. And it's like, wait, what? I'm not, that was just a natural response what I did, but now you're getting like shunned for it. And so then it makes you feel like you're always juggling, like you're always trying to, do I do this, instead of just being in the moment and listening. So like even when me and you have conversations, I feel like I can be myself. I can feel like I can be, there's things I'm very transparent because there's things I want to fix, not fix, like really,
Shift.
yeah, I do. And I desire that. And if I have this desire, but I keep my mouth closed because I'm afraid of like what you'll think of me,
Mhm.
um, I won't get the real the real real thing I want in life, which is to still enjoy what I do, because I do enjoy what I do, enjoy my family, eventually travel. We talked about that before. We talked about that before. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's where so yeah, it is a demonstration. Even how I handle things, how I respond to my children. Um,
Tell me in a list of words, what, from your perspective, is the cost of performance? What words would you say? We came up with disconnect,
mhm.
came up with a block to being. What does that, what other words are there? How can people really get from the cost if they're performing? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so I feel that if the cost is you don't start trusting yourself, you'll start looking for
Distrust,
external. Yeah, you
distrust.
distrust yourself. You don't think, oh, that the first thought you had was the thing you should have said or you should have addressed, and so you let stuff go on and on and on,
So
for months.
second guessing your
Yeah,
instincts. So yeah. And how does it feel to you? How do you know, oops, I got to deal with this? Because I think it gets to a certain level, if I'm understanding what you're wanting to share with this idea, the hidden cost of performance. So maybe I start to get into a role and leave just showing up. So is that the dichotomy, being in a role and equals performance, or just being our authentic self showing up? Is that the dichotomy? Is that what we're looking to compare?
I believe so, because I feel that people are joyless. There's opportunities to tap into joy, and we're all not experiencing it because we feel like, for instance, even if someone's changing right now and they're feeling really good about their change, other people are uncomfortable with change and they will also wave their finger at you, or you'll internalize it to where they're waving their finger at you, and then you kind of say, let me just go back to doing, and you weren't happy there. You really policed yourself. You put yourself kind of like in a prison, you
I like,
know.
I like that a lot. So can I expand it and say
Yeah.
that when you decide not to show up with your authentic self, meaning your reaction, if it's a question, if it's a comment, if it's a story, if it's just what's happening with you, we're calling that right now your authentic self. If we deny that, shut that down, we go into performance role, we go role or performance. And you said next, we're joyless. I think that's true, or we don't experience as much joy, but we don't have any of our feelings. If we shut down, when we decide not to be ourselves, we have a shutdown button. It's like the
Hmm.
computer, it's off. So it's not just joy. Now I know we're in a society that just wants to be happy, books and books on how to be happy. And we go to joyless, and that's motivating. But if you never can allow yourself to be angry or even annoyed, which is on the continuum of anger, we don't want pain because we're scared it will just go on and on. We're scared of the intense feelings. And maybe we like joy, but we don't like this, that, and the other feeling. We shut it all down.
I, I think so. When I say joy, and I'm intentionally not using happy because those are temporarily feelings that we feel. And that's even something you've even talked about before, where you're experiencing anger. A lot of times we're taking on the identity of the feeling. When I say joy, I mean there's like an internal everything. Like I say, the Matthew McConaughey voice. All right, all right, all right. It's like it's an all rightness
Yeah.
in me that's that joy. Not a high or low. It's not. It's like it's oh I'm okay.
How about contentment?
It is. So that's part of a scripture. But yes, it is contentment. You're content in all your ways. So that means you always acknowledge, like I acknowledge I'm a student. I'm always a student because I'm always learning and applying and being a student. Sometimes you don't pass all your quizzes, but that doesn't mean you don't pass the final test, right? So I feel like if it's a real shift is like joy is not a higher for me, right? Is it's not a high or low. And I know we talked about the high or low, the spectrum, but I feel that it's not like I'm chasing a happiness or this high feeling. I'm really am acknowledging now that in this season that I'm shifting into, this feels most right with me. And it's scary because it allows a lot of stillness. And the thing that I wrote today was like stillness threatens the performance driven identity because it exposes where your worth is rooted. Our
Okay,
worth.
we gotta stop here. You gotta say that again really slowly because it's really good. Okay, say it again.
So, stillness threatens the performance driven identity because it exposes where your worth is rooted.
Oh my goodness. Okay, let's pull that apart. That's so brilliant. So stillness threatens. So when what you're saying that this move, do is an escape from our inner worthiness or our inner stillness or our inner contentment because we don't trust it. We don't trust that it's there. And you and I have talked about getting off the worthy,
Mhm.
unworthy. And if we all did that, if we weren't trying to be worthy, which means we feel we're unworthy,
Mhm.
then what's left is all rightness. Not that you like everything, we confuse that. So stillness threatens, really, it exposes, right? It exposes whether or not we're all right.
And that the performance identity is pretending things are all right all the
Mhm.
time. So it threatens it when you say, I'm good. Like this is and so sometimes, and I think even because I know I'm not the only one that's experienced this, but I think sometimes I don't like using the word nice because where the root word is meaning naive. But sometimes when we feel like if we are being the and this is the quote unquote where they say nice girl, I want to be kind. Kind means you're talking to other people and yourself in a way that you want an awesome future for them, right? And but when you have this nice girl, you police your mouth and you'll try to make everybody comfortable, and then that's your job. Really, your job is to be okay with yourself, so therefore other people have permission, so everyone will stop performing and kind of come to this equilibrium where we're like, oh, we're all weirdos, like something, along those lines. But you have to accept the stillness. And part of being still is also experiencing the emotions. And that's something I want to run away from. Sometimes, like when my kids are having, these emotional moments, I want to rush them through, and I'll apologize. So sometimes I'll catch myself, and then sometimes I don't, but I'll come back and talk to them and say, hey, do you need a little bit more of my time? And sometimes it's less than 15 minutes. They bounce back pretty quick, but it's me being uncomfortable sitting, sitting in those emotions too. And then also it's bringing up stuff that I've experienced in the past. And I'm like, ugh, I didn't know I had to deal with this too. But if I allow myself to just be in the moment, I'm not rushing them, because I know the thing I need to do is I'm going to get it done. There's no there's no lack, there's no deficit, there's nothing. And you're right. It is taking myself, what you always like to say is get off the question. There's no questioning, oh, I'm not being worthy right now or valuable because I'm not doing the thing that someone's expecting me to do. No, I'm actually already valuable. I don't have to force myself to believe that. And that's something I just have to keep revisiting, because it does kind of invite, we always have this invitation. There's a daily invitation to think this way or this way. But if I'm like in contentment and stillness, there's no rushing. Like you can feel the weight, even if you say it, you can feel the weight is coming off your shoulders. You're just being there, and it doesn't make you less valuable or lazy. That's a huge thing too. I can go into that, but you're not being lazy when you're in stillness.
Mhm. Yeah, you just mentioned a minute ago about we could all be accepting. You didn't use that word accepting. What did you say about we could all be? Do you remember what you said?
No, I just know I said equilibrium, where we all can just be like here, like just
Okay.
being ourselves.
And normally I would hear somebody say that and think, oh, that's impossible, the way because of the polarities in life. But everybody knows that I just went on a trip and we were in a group hiking with strangers. And everybody was their quirky self. When you're working really hard and pushing yourself physically, the performance thing that we can do so easily, the energy for performing really goes down. There's not enough left to pretend stuff. And what I experienced was something very unusual in this group. And I didn't relate it to performance at the time, but there was one man who was so intensely talking, and he knew a lot about every subject, but you'd have to be willing to have a conversation. And sometimes you just were tired or you just were feeling whatever. And nobody wanted, everybody in this group allowed people, nobody tried to change him, nobody judged him. Sometimes people wouldn't sit next to him in the van because you might not walk next to him unless you were ready to really talk, you know. And another woman was late all the time. Turns out she didn't have hearing aids and didn't ever hear when the instruction, but nobody rolled their eyes at her. She was given a talk about the hearing aids, and would you rather be seen as self-indulgent, like you don't care about what the group wants you to do, be at 8 o'clock at the whatever? Or would you rather have somebody see you're older and have hearing aids? So I can't, I feel like I got a demonstration that everybody's allowed to be their quirky self. He doesn't have to be quiet. She doesn't have to be less self-indulgent, but we can see people as they are without judging them. Everybody still had their place in the group. I've never seen that. Usually the group turns on someone if they're late all the time or they're not, people feel better when someone else is the problem. It's group dynamics, but I saw that groups can allow people to be their quirky selves, and we can accept them and even love them for it. You know, this man has a really good heart. And so does the woman who's always late. She didn't mean to not care about the other people. It just looked that way. So I want to thank you, Chris, for bringing up performance in our lives and bringing up our awareness to when are we just performing, because there's nothing wrong. It's not evil to perform, but there's a cost of it, is what you're bringing up. We get disconnected from ourselves. We're not in the moment. We have judgments about the other people or ourselves that's making us decide to be in a role. Or we believe, this is what I learned from you today too, judgment, roles equals results. Forget the word judgment there. Roles equal results. So it's just a belief. It's not the truth, that we couldn't even get deeper, more long-lasting results if we just demonstrate our okayness. Do the Matthew McConaughey. All right, all right, right.
All right, all right, all right.
Yeah.
There's a thing I want to say about the roles. So roles are temporary and results are temporary. So if you use the example about my kids picking up their clothes, it's temporary obedience to that role as long as that role is there. And so that's the result. And it's like, to have the long lasting portion of it, what I believe is that, like you said, it's the demonstration. I'm doing it. It's a natural thing. Just being natural. It doesn't mean, because the other part of the fear of that, right, is that, well, I don't want to remain the same. And it's like, well, now you're judging yourself instead of seeing you're a student, you're learning and applying. And it's really impossible for you to be the same person. But a lot of times we believe that we're the same person from the past. I know a lot of times my past self, when I think about those experiences and I work through those experiences, I will see her as, instead of saying, thank you for getting me here, being grateful. Sometimes I'll pick apart, like, oh my goodness, if you did this, and you didn't do this, and you didn't. And it's like, if I'm doing this and like that tug rope you demonstrate, my hands are so here that I can't be here and I can't be like, looking for what's possible. And so I do want to say that it's temporary, but your yourself, that joy, that stillness, that's always there. It can always, it's there under there. And it's like, if you want to dip into it, you can, but if you choose to be in performance, there is a gap. And then you'll do things, self-sabotaging things. You will judge others. You won't connect with people. You won't really filter your thoughts. And you'll keep getting that gap. It's bigger and bigger and bigger. And then you'll think, oh, it's impossible for me to get back. You feel like something's broken, something's lost.
Well, you've lost touch with your authentic self. You're so busy in your head about what you need to do and what the judgments, and it's like being in a straitjacket with all the rules. The rules are killing your ability to demonstrate your spirit. So I really thank you, Chris, for demonstrating an ability to look at yourself, a willingness to share with other people, to connect, to being a thought leader, to taking us to new places, because I don't think that many of us are reevaluating our roles. Sometimes we think that that's what people come to us for. Like if you just want to share with a sister, maybe that sister thinks she needs to solve your problem. Husbands are great with thinking that's why you shared. I mean, that's the age-old thing. What we're trying to teach them, well, we're sharing, we don't want you to fix this. We don't need fixing. But that's a role, what you interpret. So what I'm taking from today is the cost of performance, because maybe that's something we hadn't questioned before. And when we think of other people, our family or our friends, would we want them to show up as the perfect friend or show up as themselves? Because the perfect friend is kind of,
Mm-hmm.
it's without dimension, it's without passion, it's someone trying to be perfect.
I agree. But I also feel that it's that mirror too. Because if someone's performing, then you'll feel obliged to perform too.
It's
And sometimes you just
contagious.
don't want to.
It's contagious.
Yes.
You're
Yes.
right. You're right. I love this conversation, Chris, and we might need you to come back because this has been such a great conversation. And I hope you don't mind my us having to stop you so we could really digest your pearls because you have a very quick mind, and some of us need to sit with these ideas that are new for us. So this has been so rich, so deep, and you know I love you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you
for
for having
coming on today.
me. Thank you. I appreciate you all.
And we'll put in the notes, in the show notes, in the email, how you can connect with Chris. And she does an incredible email. There are really only two people's emails that I enjoy, yours and someone else who tells stories, because they're a vacation from the world. You're a really good writer. I hope you know that. You're just really, really good writer. And you do have an upcoming book. We don't know exactly when because it's being still moved by your experience in life, and it's going to be that much better than the original version. But sign up for her email if you enjoyed Chris today and you want more, and there'll be more information on her from her bio and her website. So thank you, Chris.
Thank you.